This is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 414. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me is my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Hey, man, I just wanted to ask you, how does it feel to now have the NFL season kick off this week? Like, it's awesome that the season finally started here this week with a win over the Detroit Lions. I'm fired up.
It's good to start off the season with a win. I mean, you would hate, I feel bad for teams like the Detroit Lions who have so much hope going into the season and their fans, and they're excited for week one, and then to come away with a loss, be 0-1. But our Seahawks, 1-0, baby. Here we go.
I don't know. Yeah, I just want to pretend like week one didn't happen, because week two, Brandon, that's the team that I thought we would see for the majority of this year, and we probably will. But an exciting game. They get the dub, get to 1-1, and we don't have to dig out of the dreaded 0-2 hole, man. How good does that feel? Like, it's such a sigh of relief for me.
The 0-2 hole is the worst, and one of the reasons why it was that Bloomy brought up on the 3 and 3 out show was that if you go 0-2, then you're on a list. You're on a list of the teams that, can this team overcome the 0-2 deficit and still go to the playoffs? And when you're 1-1, you avoid that altogether. You're essentially fine.
Absolutely. And considered a contender in your conference. In fact, I was watching Peter King's power rankings here this week, and he had the Seahawks up at 9, actually. Oh. Now, they were a slot behind the Rams, which, that unacceptable, soldier. But
wait, so he had 3 NFC West teams in the top 10?
Yeah. And in fact, his top 3 teams were NFC teams.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. But you get the respect with a big win like they got there in Detroit, a win that I think we were all reticent in the idea that they could get it. And they did. They came out, they executed, and the offense really balled out. Geno Smith had himself a freaking day. That's my quarterback, man. That guy.
Well, and you can see why we were reticent. It was a close game. It's not like our team ran away with it. Shoot, it was a 14-7 deficit at halftime. And, you'd seen him move the ball a little bit, but between misfires on special teams, I guess you did have the good part of them getting out to the early 7-0 lead, putting the points up on the board first. But, then Detroit gets back into it. They're up 14-7 at halftime. I've found that as much as I like to have first quarter leads, I feel like the team plays better when they have a halftime deficit.
They played with a deficit most of the day, really. Yeah. And it did keep them hungry and getting after it. They were better on third downs offensively. They started out running the rock pretty well with Kenneth Walker. That felt nice. They were able to punch it in the red zone a few times where they had struggled in the past. I think that was a huge improvement in this game.
Yeah. Do we have our goal line running back now, Adam? Is Ken Walker the Seahawks goal line running back?
When wasn't he?
Well, when they didn't have a running back who would ever run it into the end zone unless they were outside of the red zone.
Oh, that's true. I thought you were trying to say that maybe Sharps was supposed to be our goal line back like so many others.
I just wanted to find one.
Exactly. But no, he didn't have a huge day, but got loose on a couple runs and then was very effective down by the goal line. I think that was awesome. That was fun to watch. I mean, just so many great plays out of Geno. Hit 9 different receivers throughout the game, including all 3 tight ends who, as a position group, also had a whale of a day.
I think that was the standout thing to me, was that when you combined all 3 tight ends, it was about 130 yards passing, and that was only on 9 completions. So if your 3 tight ends equaled 1 receiver, that was really the standout receiver in the game. But I think it's a testament to Geno Smith, really, that they were able to spread the ball around so well. They ran the ball effectively enough. And Geno, 32 of 41, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think the thing that surprises me the most out of all his stat lines, 1 sack.
There it is. Yeah, well, I almost buried the lead. The offensive line played an amazing game despite having 2 backup tackles in Stone Forsythe and Curran.
Yeah.
And they got it done, man, especially after looking pretty anemic against the Rams, those guys came out and had a whale of a game. That's as much as you can expect, and couldn't be more happy for those guys and for the team. We needed that.
And I think it justifies the type of formations that this team should play with, even with healthy tackles. Because if you can go out and get that kind of mixture of production from the tight ends, when you can have those tight ends in the game to help the running game, it helped it feel more balanced, and it also helped out those tackles that were filling in for the starters.
A lot of 13 personnel, and that seemed to help the team out quite a bit, not only in the running game, but in the passing game as well, giving Geno some quick outlets on many throws that he needed. How many times did he end up with a free rusher in his face, man, and just threw darts? That was impressive.
Yeah. Did you go back and count that? Because that was a question that we had in the postgame show, is just how many times he faced pressure into his grill and was able to deliver the throw.
I was going to say it's at least 3 times. It's at least 3.
I felt after watching the game, I felt like a dozen, and then you said 5, and now it's been revised down to 3. So the number keeps getting smaller.
Yeah. It could have very well been more. Could have been more, but they did run that 13 personnel a bunch throughout the game, and I love it, man. This is why I was slightly upset over the JSN pick back in the draft. It was like, all right, fine. Like, slot receiver is just not something that I think that we're going to use a ton of. And I don't care. Like, you can pretty much find anybody to do that, even though you can't. But, there's a lot of receivers out there in the world. You could find the Puka Nakuas later on in the draft and guys of that ilk.
Right. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 4th rounder, I think. Or at least a 3rd.
There you go. I'd rather be playing with big personnel that are versatile and you can run the hell out of the rock from there, and then also be very effective in the passing game, because the tight ends were amazing. And Shane Waldron had a heck of a game as a play caller as a whole, doing a lot of things to get the ball out in a hurry, try to protect those tackles, ran the ball enough to make them respect it. And I mean, proof's in the pudding, right? I mean, they scored a quadrillion points. So there you go.
And part of the proof too is in the snap counts for the Seahawks offense. When I look down the list, okay, there's Jackson Smith and Jigba, 56%, which I think was maybe even a little higher than you would have expected him normally, because DK had to come out of the game with a rib injury when he caught the ball down near the goal line. But you have him at 56, Will Dissly, 53%, Colby Parkinson, 51%, and Noah Fant, 47%. So about all of those guys between 35 and 40 snaps out of the total 72 snaps. It feels like a good way to mix in everybody. If there's one thing I'd like to see more from JSN, though, it's stop using him like he's Percy Harvin. Just because he wears number 11 doesn't mean you have to throw passes to him like he's only there for screenplays.
Oh, yeah. To go back to what you said about the snap count percentages, I mean, the tight ends play 150% of the snaps. I love that. That's really fun.
Well, they're not all on the field all at once.
Yeah, I got it. But you're not wrong about some of the JSN usage in some of the screens and things of that nature. Man, screens, once again, dumpster fire. Can't run a screen. No, just can't do it.
Can't do it.
Nope.
Week 2 and counting of not being able to run a screen, and yet still trying.
You're 12.
Week 2 of season 13 of Pete Carroll's tenure. Is it 13?
There you go.
I can't remember.
Feels right. Yeah. It's a bunch. It's over a decade. I know that much. That's about the biggest nit that you can pick with the offense for the most part throughout the game. Short of Geno's ridiculous scramble sack. That was his one mistake on the day that you're just like, what are you thinking? And the thing is that I got to get what he's thinking, trying to get past the 2-minute warning, try not to give him an extra timeout, all that stuff. But that's not the way you do it, bro. Throw it away at some point.
You ended up, I think, making it tougher on the team by taking that sack there, because it allowed the Lions then to be in field goal range almost immediately. Yeah, I understand it. it's a forgivable mistake, as I think what it ends up being, just as Devin Witherspoon getting beat on a flea flicker is a bit of a forgivable mistake for a young player.
Yeah, in his first game, yes, that is forgivable in your first game as a young player, no doubt. Now, going forward, you start getting beat on those more, we're going to have a problem. Right. Like, that's not going to be able to fly. But, we'd be remiss if we got off of talking the offense without mentioning Tyler Lockett in Tyler's huge day, including the game winner. Man, to watch the offense march the field in overtime, get a big 3rd and 6 to DK on an in route to keep the drive going, and then Geno to have to scramble around, get creative, and him and Tyler be on the same page and score the game winner. Oh, dude, like, that's Seahawks ecstasy right there, man. Like, that was so awesome.
Well, it was ecstasy, and I think it was even heightened ecstasy because the offense had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter with about 8 minutes to go, and then ended up giving up that 10-point lead and going into overtime. So you're feeling a little bit down, but then Drew Lock comes out, wins the coin toss for the Seahawks. So the clutch gene continues for the backup quarterback spot when it comes to the coin toss, and Seahawks get the ball first, drive down. And like you said, the chemistry there and the veteran presence of Tyler Lockett. It was funny just hearing him after the game talk about how he was almost apologetic about the idea of reaching out toward the pylon, because they get coached so hard not to reach for the pylon. And even though he's a veteran and knew what he was doing, to the point that he said he had to look back to see that the way he was being tackled by the Lions player on whether or not he felt comfortable himself reaching out for the pylon. What other player except a guy who's been in the league that long can process all of that in the moment, know the coaching points, and then say, you know what? I know the position I'm in. I know the player behind me. I can do this. I'm going to take the chance. And he does it, and he gets the game winner.
He gets the game winner. And then you hear Pete in one of his interviews say, well, he didn't get in trouble for that. He's got the right presence.
Because he's Tyler Lockett. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler almost always does the right thing. He very rarely makes a big mistake, even though he made a big mistake in the game last year against the Lions. He had the fumbled, it was either a punt or a kickoff return where he gave up a big turnover early in the game. And that's like the last mistake I can even think of for Tyler Lockett. So yeah, there's nobody you trust more in that moment than probably him on the entire team. And then to have the offense have the ball and to close it out, like, that was so huge. Cause I mean, I felt like, I think everybody else in America, that if the Lions get the coin toss, it's probably game over. At the very least, you better get a field goal on your next possession.
Well, and a big part of it is just the way that Dan Campbell coaches. I don't see Dan Campbell, unless they're facing a 4th and 15 in overtime, as a guy who's just going to settle and kick the field goal. I think he's the type of coach that says, hey, we're in overtime. We got the ball. If it's 4th and under 5 yards, we're probably going for it until we score a touchdown.
I like his aggressive style. I do. There's obviously times where Pete turtles up way too often for my taste. But then when I look at Dan Campbell and how he coaches, like, can we just take about 15% off the top, man? Like, it's just a little too much. And it really bit him in the ass in this game, because despite having, I guess it was technically 3 turnovers, because there was that fumble right at the end of the first half by, I think it was St. Brown on the long reception. Right.
And it went out of bounds.
Fumble, but so they had the 3 turnovers, but they had 2 more turnovers and 4th down stops by the defense. Defense really showed out in the second half, man. This second half couldn't have been more opposite of the second half against the Rams.
Yeah, those, like Pete was saying after the game, those turnover on downs are like having turnovers. And so when you can get those extra possessions, especially when you get the pick 6 for the touchdown, that's a big swing. It's a swing in momentum too, for sure, when you're able to turn it over on downs and they're in field goal range. Because what was it? It was the third quarter and they turn it back over to the Seahawks. They're able to score the touchdown. And then, I mean, that's a big swing right there in the game.
Huge swing. And brought to you by none other than the rookie Witherspoon. I mean, he had two nice plays on fourth down. One was people thought maybe was pass interference, but he just had his feet tangled up. But nice PBU on, I believe it was that fourth down stop, the one you were just talking about. He had a very up and down game in, look, you're going to get God as a rookie. Welcome to the NFL, all that good stuff. But man, seeing him out there in the way that he plays, he's a damn good football player, man. And he brings some juice, dude. Like you he's out there. And he had that nice tackle too on like a wide receiver screen or something like that. And you're like, that's what I saw on tape as a college player. And it was exciting to see him get out there and make a few plays. Maybe it'll make a few people feel a little bit better about the whole Jalen Carter thing now that Witherspoon's out there and actually, being productive. But I couldn't be more thrilled about his play and the idea of him and Reek going forward, even though we may not see him here next week.
Yeah, it sounds like Tariq Woolen out for this game against the Panthers. And you brought up Jalen Carter's name. I think having him out on the field and producing is definitely going to help that argument. I think, though, that there's Seahawks fans that are going to hold on to that just because of the position that Carter plays and the need the team had in the offseason. I hold to the idea that the Seahawks had him in. They did all of the work. There were all the personality questions with Jalen Carter. There were teams after the Seahawks that still passed on him. And even the Eagles, it sounded like that they were a little bit tentative on it too. I would feel worse about it if the Seahawks passed on him. He immediately went to the team right behind him and was having that kind of production. So I just go back to...
I'm not going to feel good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were talking to America. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
That was one of the better moments of the game, wasn't it? Where Geno Smith arguing with the ref. I've never heard a ref do that ever. Or at least not with that kind of statement.
No, that was beautiful. I love that. That was probably the best officiating moment of that part of that call was the best officiating moment of the NFL week, I think. But, back to the Carter and Witherspoon thing, I'm not going to feel good nor bad about it for at least 3 years. However you feel about it right now as a Seahawks fan, I can promise you that with 80% certainty that you're going to feel different about, Spoon versus Carter 3 years from now than you do today. There's a lot that's going to go down. He's got to keep his head screwed on straight for 2-3 years to be a worthwhile pick.
You could even take it out farther than that and go second contract, because you see some of those guys that it isn't until then they get paid and they get the big contract, then it's over for some of them.
Oh, for sure. So there's a lot of football. I'm not too worried about it. I like what I see out of Spoon right out of the gate. And it shows on the field that him and Trey Brown actually make a pretty good tandem. Trey Brown's big football day, Brandon. Let me just tee you up to talk about your fellow Sooner.
Boomer. Yeah. Trey Brown. Well, for one, I mean, the pick six, right? It was the big moment for him. And what a play to... How many times do you see a ball deflected like that where the guy playing behind the receiver, it's just a catch that people normally don't make, professional NFL players normally don't make. And so for him to catch that, then return it for the touchdown, an impressive play by him, but an overall impressive day for him to come in and fill behind Reek and kind of lock down that right side for the most part on the day. He had the best coverage grade of all the corners per PFF.
Really?
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he actually had the highest grade of all defensive players per PFF for the Seahawks.
Having a sack and a pick six, that helps the defensive grade quite a bit. No doubt about it. But
yeah. And only, what did the Seahawks put out? Only 20 some players have done that in the history of the NFL, to have a pick six and a sack. I thought it was something else too, but yeah, a very rare to have those two types of plays in the same game.
Yeah. Just incredible by him. Like I said, he did get beat on a touchdown later in the game. I think that was the one that got him within 3 towards the end of the game. to Reynolds. And that was, as much as I was happy for the defense as a whole, because it wasn't just rolling dumpster fire. It was, some takeaways and a few stops and all that. It still wasn't amazing. There's still a long ways to go. They gave up that 10-point lead, like you were talking about, with like 6-7 minutes left in the fourth. Seahawks are up 10 and we have to go to overtime. Like, we can't keep 10 points off the board. That's tough, man.
Well, not only is it the defense giving up a 5-minute drive in the fourth quarter that results in a touchdown, it's that the offense, they couldn't get it done. And that was where the Geno Smith sack came into play in that fourth quarter. It was 1st and 10. Geno, at least he has there's nothing downfield. He's able to scramble up the middle, slide down, at least keep the clock rolling at 3 minutes. But then they run a screenplay on 2nd and 8 and it gets swatted down, and then it's an incomplete pass. And then you're thinking, oh, great. So not only did we not run the ball on 2nd and 8 when you could have easily taken it to the 2-minute warning, we try a screenplay that we're historically not good at, and it falls incomplete. Essentially, it's a timeout for the Lions because that they don't have to take. And then on 3rd down, now you're facing 3rd and long. And yeah, I think that was what happened on that first 3rd and 8. There was, Colby got called for OPI, which was kind of a BS offensive pass interference call. But then they back up to 3rd and 18, and Geno Smith has to try and dance around just to get by the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, it was a rough way to try to finish out that game in regulation. Thank God they got it done in overtime, because they needed it bad. You hear the players and Pete talk about their psyche when they were trying to get past the Rams game and really couldn't until our man, the myth, the legend, Bobby freaking Wagner, brought the team together and got them right and said, let's get our poop in a group. Let's move on to next week. This is how you be a professional, young bucks. This is why I'm here. Just follow my lead. I got this. You got this. We're going to be good. Thank God for Bobby Wagner. He is he's an American treasure. I don't care what anybody says. Even if you're a 49ers fan, you got to love Bobby Wagner. Just thank God for him. But to get the win following that, man, we needed that so much, because they were talking about just how down they were. And I can't imagine what would have happened if they would have had a deflating overtime loss here in week 2. That could be where it really snowballs. And that's what Pete's great at, right? Keeping us in close games after, bad losses. And even if you lose the second one, like it's tight, you never really get blown out again. And it was so important for them to come out and either win or keep it real close and be uber competitive.
That'll be one thing that's interesting to go back and see, because as much credit as Bobby Wagner got for the midweek gathering of the players and motivating them heading into the Lions game, if the Seahawks don't win the coin toss in overtime, how much more of a microscope moment are we looking at that final drive of the fourth quarter, where it's 2 yards, penalty, incomplete pass on a screen, Geno running backwards. That whole series is then, that's the reason why we lost. What's Geno doing? Taking a 17-yard loss. Then you got to kick it back to them. They're able to kick the field goal for the tie and go into overtime. If Geno doesn't get that chance for redemption in overtime, it's very different looking.
Yeah. The narrative would be completely different. And instead of feeling like we're on cloud 9 going into week 3 here with the Panthers coming to town, I think we'd all be questioning whether or not we can win more than 4 games this year at this point. But man, I don't have a lot of doubts going forward after that performance against the Lions and such. I mean, just remember those circumstances, man. I mean, coming off that bad loss to the Rams, the Lions with the big win against KC, coming back for their home opener. Everybody's in ski masks because, I don't know, I guess they all wanted to be felons that day. And for them to come in with that kind of juice in the stands and with a team riding as high as the Lions were, that's a tall task, man. And give them credit. They got it done. And the defense did just enough to, keep the offense in it. And here we are, 1-1.
And you didn't even mention the Barry Sanders statue going up before the game.
Yeah, I'm not a statue guy, so whatever.
It's part of the narrative, though.
Yeah, it is part of the narrative. They'll probably push it over in 100 years because I don't know, it's made out of something or it stands for football shoes or something. Who knows, man? We all know a statue is not going to last.
I guess. Where are we going?
I don't know. I thought that simple joke wasn't going to take us completely off the rails, but it did. Let's talk about the defense a bit more because I feel like we didn't give them their credit where credit is due. One thing that really stood out to me, Brandon, was just in the second half, the way that they cranked up the pass rush. It finally looked like they were getting some pressure. They brought more than 4 dudes way more often, a lot more blitzes, a lot more stunts. And that was refreshing to see. And the back end was able to hold up because they were actually getting pressure and forcing Goff into quick decisions.
And especially against a Detroit Lions team where we were kind of questioning going into this game whether or not they would be able to get more pressure than they did against the Rams. I think we expected more of a performance like this against LA than we did against Detroit, but that was part of the reason why they were able to maybe get Goff off his spot a little bit more. Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't kill the defense. He didn't even have a touchdown on the day, which was, I think, one of the surprises too. So the fact that they were able to move Goff around a little bit, also get the pick 6. Yeah, a big part of that came from what they were able to do in the second half.
Oh, it was a huge part of it. And that was honestly kind of a joy to watch. And we saw Dre'mont, he had a sack, correct, in this game?
Yeah, 3 pressures and a sack.
Yep. And so that started to feel a little more right, or at least getting your bang for the buck that we're all hoping for there with Dre'mont. So that was exciting. And, the linebackers, I think, played a good game as a whole. Again, we still got tore up by the tight end again, Laporta. I want to make sure that we all pronounce it just as Greg Olsen does. So Laporta had lots of really nice catches throughout the game, including one against Julian Love, where you're like, dude, what else is Julian Love supposed to do?
Yeah.
You basically had a hand completely on it, and Laporta just ripped it right away from him.
There was one with Julian Love. There was another one with Kobe Bryant where I think it was Amon-Ra who the ball right in his hands, Kobe right there to try and knock it away. And both those guys, I think we need to check these Detroit Lions gloves for how much stickum is on these gloves that they can fight through a hand swatting through the ball at the catch point.
Sticky fingers for sure, but strong hands. It give Laporta some credit there. I mean, those were some dynamic plays, and boy, it was nerve-wracking going there into the late second half until Trey Brown got the pick 6. I mean, it just didn't feel like that they were ever going to get over the hump. They're always playing from 1 score behind, and just such a huge turning point. And there's a few of us who knew that that was definitely going to happen at some point in the game. And Goff held up true to form, averaging a pick a game in his career against the Seahawks. Does it again with Trey Brown and company.
Yeah, that's pretty wild that he has that history, and then to do it again in a big moment.
Breaking the streak. Oh, the huge streak that everybody was talking about. The no interception streak.
Yeah.
It's like close to, I don't know, whoever has the record. He was so many away and was getting close, and but couldn't help himself. Loves giving the Seahawks gifts. He's a very generous guy, that Jared Goff.
One of the things I found funny out on social media was that just how Lions fans can convince themselves that Jared Goff is a really good quarterback, but also put down the fact that Geno Smith is not a good quarterback when they're in very similar positions as far as the point of their career. And yes, they're both really good quarterbacks, but I guess maybe because both haven't been in that position to actually then go on and win. I mean, Goff's been the closest, obviously, of having been in the Super Bowl and have that opportunity to potentially get a chip. but it's just weird that they can see the upside in Goff, but not in Geno. And I think maybe it's a little bit vice versa too.
Yeah, I'm sure it does happen vice versa. And especially, well, in Seattle fans being as familiar with Goff as we are, we've seen so much of him, and we've seen Jared Goff make those mistakes over and over and over again. But with that said, I've said, well, I'd say about halfway through his first season with the Lions that I was like, oh, he's actually better than I thought. Like I thought he was going to go to Detroit and just become, the latest cast off until they can draft a quarterback. And it's gone the complete opposite direction for him. And he really has been a high level producer since he's been in Detroit, and you can't argue it. Like you said, it's a little like Geno's career trajectory. And I would like to think that most balanced football fans are able to see the similarities there and admit that both are good.
There we go. Both can be good.
Yeah.
Coming up against the Carolina Panthers, though, Bryce Young, you had the opinion that
not good.
This is a guy who was not good. And 2 weeks in, watching that game against the Saints, Bryce Young has some challenges. In addition to being short, he also is playing with 2 injured guards. Like his 2 starting guards are injured. And when you give kind of a makeshift offensive line to a young starting quarterback, that generally doesn't go well for the young starting quarterbacks.
Look, man, I said throughout the draft process, like the Bryce Young thing, I don't get it. Yeah. I just don't get it. I don't see what people see. And the funny thing is despite whether or not you'd have his starting guards or better receivers or whatever it is, I honestly don't think that it would look that much different. What we're seeing out there on Sundays is exactly what he did out there on Saturdays. He just got away with it because he was on Alabama and playing with plus talent over other opponents for, week after week after week. It's the same darn crap. He's not very fast. He thinks he can outrun dudes. He can't. His arm is a noodle arm. Like he might have the worst arm of any starter in the league. He cannot push it past 15 yards for the life of him, or outside the numbers for that matter. Everything is outside the numbers, I guess, if it's 10 yards or less.
Right.
But in breaking routes that are 12 yards or less, that's his jam. That's where he lives. And you cannot survive in the NFL just on those throws. You can't do it. And he's not. I'm going to be disappointed if this ankle injury actually keeps him out of this week against the Seahawks, because I want to see Bryce Young. I want to be in the stands because we're going, and to feel validated to watch him in person, go out there and run around and play football like a college quarterback who's never going to make it in this league. He's a top tier backup at best.
Be careful what you wish for, though, because all of those things that you described are things that we've seen quarterbacks do, and even young quarterbacks do, to beat the Seahawks defense. Because if Pete Carroll intends on taking away the deep shots that Bryce Young can't hit anyway, in favor of leaving openings underneath for the intermediate shots that Bryce Young can do and can be good at, because he has a strong enough arm and an accurate enough arm to hit those underneath over the middle shots, that could be what allows him to get some confidence early. If they're able to get the run game going early with their tandem of backs, I don't think Miles Sanders is very good, but I think Chuba Hubbard can be good. And for whatever reason, they've been giving Miles Sanders the majority of the carries, which baffles me. But if they are able to figure out that one little thing, it could end up helping the team. And then it could end up being the way that the Seahawks play defense that allows this to be a close game.
The idea of Chuba Hubbard running just down our throats is the one thing that genuinely terrifies me about this game. I remember last year when Deontay Foreman came in and just jellied us like we didn't even exist. It was one of the most demoralizing games to watch all year, and watch Sam Darnold get a win against us, who honestly can do more than Bryce Young as a quarterback. If you're Pete Carroll and the Seahawks and Clint Hurt, there's no possible way that you can come into this week without playing everybody up, playing tight to all your receivers, playing single high safety, have an extra dude in the box, make sure they can't get the running game going by doing that as well.
Right.
And then sit on everything short for Bryce Young, because they do run deep routes. They do. But the only reason they run deep routes is to run everybody off, and then they throw it to the tight end coming in or the back coming in on a shallow crosser late. That's their entire deep game. That's what they do. And Bryce will take a shot here and there, won't get it close because that's how he is. And just don't fall for it, man. Like, play up, jump everything underneath. If the guy crosses 12 yards from the line of scrimmage, you might as well just stop covering.
And the funny thing is that that's generally not the way the defense would play, but I would give it. And okay, you're probably going to get beat. Like, say that's the strategy. You're the defensive coordinator, Adam. That's the approach that you're going to take. Stop covering dudes. There's going to be 3 passes out of every 10 to a wide open receiver that will connect beyond the 15 yards. But that's only 3 passes. Like, and if you're sitting on the shorter ones and you're getting way more third down stops than you're not.
I don't even think you'd give up 3. I think you'd give up about 1 in 10. He is an anemic downfield thrower. And I wouldn't say that just based off of his.
Oh, I was
NFL
thinking 3
tape.
out of 20. I was thinking 15%, but I didn't do the math right in my head. I gave it 30. I meant 3 out of 20.
Okay. So you say 15%, I say 10. So we're in the ballpark either way, but I couldn't help but sit here and think after watching the last 2 Panthers games and go, man, what a Jamal Adams game this would be. Having him back and up in the box and playing the run and jumping everything short. This is a Jamal Adams game. This is everything that you want Jamal Adams for, is for this type of matchup. I don't know if he's going to be back. Pete's kind of playing at coy. He's been practicing all week. I don't know what's smart or what's not smart or where he's at or if he's ready or not, but gosh darn, it would be awesome to have him back this week. It plays perfectly into his play style.
He was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. Generally, that means good things, but yeah. And maybe it means good things too that Pete is playing at coy.
Hard telling, not knowing, that's for sure. But I would love to see Jamal back for this game. I think it would make a huge difference. And that would give you the ability to blitz a little more often as well. Right. Having Adams down and being able to pick up any of the hots and things of that nature. That would be awesome. This is a game that the defense should suck the life out of the Detroit Lions. They're bad. Their offensive line is bad. You brought up the 2 guards. Man, they're playing with backup guards, and you can tell. It didn't look anything like the Forsyth Curran performance you saw last week. It's bad.
If we don't get a Dre'mont Jones game in this game against backup Panthers guards, then what did we pay this guy all this money for?
I don't know. Again, I will give it to the end of the season before I get too mad about Dre'mont or too excited.
I'm giving it to the end of this week. I need a Dre'mont Jones
this week.
Big game.
Unnoticed Dre'mont Jones, put there by Brandon Schultz of the Seahawks podcast. That's great. I hope he hears that. That'll be good for your deal.
I hope he hears it, and I hope he ends up getting 2 sacks, 4 stops, and okay, he doesn't need 2 sacks. 1 sack, 4 stops, and
5 pressures.
5 pressures is good. Yeah, I like that.
There we go. That'd be sweet. I do think that this game is one that the Seahawks defense can look as good as they can against this type of offense with these types of, and the receivers, dude, they are freaking slow. They're featuring Adam Thielen as their number 1. And I was watching JT O'Sullivan do a breakdown of Bryce Young last night just to be like, am I crazy? Like, am I the only one that's seeing this? And he tended to kind of see a lot of the same stuff, which made me feel like I wasn't crazy, which was nice. But man, he was dogging Adam Thielen like left and right, man. He made fun of him the entire hour-long video. It was tough for that because I respect Adam Thielen, but at this point of his career, he's not a number 1.
Well, he's not, but they had to use him as their number 1, and he was actually, moving the ball relatively well. DJ Chark, it sounds like he's coming back from injury, and so he would be the guy that offers their team a little bit of speed. But what good is that speed then? Okay, you can get downfield deep, but if you don't have a quarterback that can hit the deep guy, then it's not going to impact the offense as much as a speed guy normally would, other than to maybe open up the stuff underneath for a guy like Thielen.
100%. So this receiving core, whether it's DJ Chark or Chenault, who I think is a fine receiver, like just not a game changer. Yeah, that trio of receivers, that shouldn't strike fear in anybody's heart at all, especially when you have a trigger man that can't get it to them unless they're 12 yards and in.
As scared as I am about certain aspects of the Carolina Panthers D, like some of the dudes on the defensive line, it sucks that Shaq Thompson got hurt for the Panthers because he's a big part of the defense in the middle. They have some nice safeties, but their corners, not scared about the corners. Troy Hill, their slot corner, Dante Jackson.
He's good.
Yeah, Troy Hill's okay, but yeah, Dante Jackson, I don't think he's that great. CJ Henderson, I think he has potential, but he just hasn't been playing that great either. I'm not that scared about the Panthers corners.
They looked good against the Saints last week. I mean, they couldn't get anything going downfield. At times, they gave up like 2 big plays. Derek Carr had a struggle fest that entire game.
Yeah. Well, a part of that, I think I attribute more to the defensive line of the Panthers that make it tough.
Yeah, that defensive line is legit. Their linebackers, I think, are just fine. In the secondary, good enough when you pair it with that sort of pressure that you get from a defensive line like that. I think the offense could have some struggles early in this game until they get adjusted to that defensive line of the Lions. We'll see. But I kind of expect a little bit more of a low scoring game, like 23-7. Seahawks.
Okay.
Obviously. Duh.
Yeah. You expect us to get more than 7 points. That's good to know.
Yes. But I don't think you're putting up 30 plus like you did last week.
No, not when you have guys like Derek Brown on the defensive line, not when Brian Burns is going to be coming after you.
He got dinged up a little bit last week.
He did, but he's the type of guy that you have to have a game plan for, similar to Aiden Hutchinson. Like, they game plan for Hutchinson well enough that he didn't have any Geno sacks. And I would hope that, if we're talking about Brian Burns having maybe 1 sack or 0 sacks coming out of this game, then I'll feel real good that we got the win. If I was just going to look at that stat, which I'm going to watch the whole game. I don't know about you.
I mean, unless I fall asleep, I'm going to be in the stands. It's going to be hard not to watch the full game. But you're 100% right about Brian Burns. I mean, that is a guy that you need to have a plan for. I mean, you said it perfectly. And after watching the Hawks handle a relatively one-dimensional pass rush in the Lions last week, I feel like they can get the job done again this week, because you got solid play out of the interior offensive linemen. I mean, Brown looked fine, even though he had to come out for a little bit. Olu even looked fine when he was in there, but Haynes had a couple up and down moments, but for the most part was good. And then Damian Lewis, I feel like we need to talk about Damian Lewis more, because he isn't getting talked about because he's doing his catfish job. Like, I appreciate Damian Lewis, man. Like, I can't be more excited about how he's done so far this year. He's been rock solid.
I even give a lot of credit to Evan Brown, and you gave him some there, but the fact that Geno had that spot consistently to where he could move up into the pocket. And I talked about a little bit in week 1 that spot was there to step up into, and he didn't. I thought that was one thing that they were able to adjust this week. He was able to move into that space, and a lot of times then use that space to escape out if he needed to, or step up, make the throw when he needed to. And a big part of that is not only Damian Lewis, but also Evan Brown.
Oh, 100%. And give Phil Haynes some credit in there as well. That trio on the interior of the offensive line.
I'm a little bit upset about Phil Haynes and some of his penalties in the last game. So, yeah.
Well, rightfully so. I'm not giving him a pass on everything.
When you're the guard and the dude next to the dude snapping the ball, and you can't wait until the ball is snapped to move, that tends to be a problem for me.
It should be something that you should be able to figure out easily, I would think, as an
I'm not talking about how I want to fight Phil Haynes, Adam. I'm talking about how you're fighting
Phil Haynes. You're fighting Dre'mont Jones. Like, who else are you fighting this week?
I get both of them to show up to fight me, and then they fight each other. And then Dre'mont Jones, by fighting Phil Haynes, gets him to stop false starting early, and all of our problems are solved.
Wow, I didn't see that going that way. But I was going to say I don't want either of those dudes fighting each other, because then somebody might be hurt and we might be missing them for the game. No. Then I was like, well, shoot. Then if they fought you instead, then you're definitely going to get hurt. And then I might be doing this for a few weeks without you. That wouldn't be good for my deal either. That felt like a lose-lose, but somehow you spun that into a win-win. So I'm very impressed.
Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt.
Well,
we will be watching the injury report for a couple of our players. Obviously, Jamal Adams, who we mentioned, DK Metcalf. We hope that he's able to. It sounds like he's not going to practice, but I think with whatever's going on with his ribs, he's going to be able to fight through. Will Dissly sounded like he was on the injury report, and they actually went and signed a tight end off of the Eagles practice squad. So I don't know if that means that we aren't going to have Uncle Will for this weekend, but I hope he's able to get back out there and play.
Yeah, I was unaware of the Uncle Will injury news, so that's news to me.
Yeah, it just came up on Wednesday. I don't think it was one thing that any of us expected, and then it was we heard about the signing of the tight end, and then it got a lot of people wondering, like, why would you do that? And then the news came out about Dissly and a shoulder injury from this past game, and then that signing kind of made sense. But yeah, I hope it's precautionary.
Yep, me too. In other shoulder injury news, Mike Morris done for the year. That is awfully disappointing.
Because I don't know if you've noticed, but we've talked about this consistently about needing guys on the interior of the defense. I don't want to lose guys.
Yeah, I feel like we've touched on that over the last offseason here, and maybe even lamented not picking some earlier, and then, I don't know, feeling appeased by picking Mike Morris later in the draft and then having it jerked right back away from you. So with an old shoulder injury, I love these old injuries that keep popping up here with guys.
Yeah, Abe Lucas's old knee and Mike Morris's old shoulder. These guys aren't old.
Or Ken Walker with the groin last year and then a little bit earlier this year, and people being like, yeah, it's just, that's something that's plagued him for years. Like did you know this when you drafted him, or did your medical staff whiff? Like, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, a lot of guys not participating among the players that we already mentioned. Kobe Bryant sat out Wednesday with a toe injury. Julian Love was out with a hamstring. Jaron Reed out with a groin injury. Reek was out with the chest injury, and it sounds like he's going to be out for Sunday. Devin Bush, shoulder injury. Boye Mafe, knee injury. So, yeah, a lot of dudes out there. Charles Cross, we hadn't mentioned him, but I think we're under the expectation that it sounds like he's progressing, but I guess I just don't have the optimism that he's going to be right back out there.
I don't think so. I'd give him another week just against this particular Panthers team. I think you can get away with having the backups out there again. And it would be great to have Cross back for week 4 against the Giants here, with Thibodeau coming up and all that, or Thibodeau, however you say his name, the kid out of Oregon, who's pretty good.
I think you can say it either way.
Can you? Okay. I didn't know.
I mean, you did, so you can.
Yeah. I covered my bases. That's just how I do.
Well, I think we covered our bases with the recap. We've covered it with the preview for the Carolina Panthers. What do you say we get to the second half of the show?
Sounds like a plan, man.
All right, Adam. Well, you have hinted at it. I have hinted at it. It's been hinted at multiple times. We are going to this Panthers game this Sunday.
Heck yeah, man. And got a fun crew that we're going to be hanging out with, the executive producers. And I can't remember who all you said might be tagging along, but man, I'm looking forward to it. This is my first game out this year. I know you had a less than pleasurable experience week 1. But I think this is going to make up for it, man. With this crew against this opponent, Yeah, it's going to be an awesome Sunday, man.
Yeah, you hope that they're able to do a little bit better against the Panthers this year than they did in previous years. But yeah, we're planning on meeting up at the game with a few folks. We're planning on doing a Saturday evening meetup at Elliott Bay Brewing Company. And so we're going to have the details for that up at getintheflock.com. We'll have it in the Discord as well. And yeah, you don't have to be a member at getintheflock.com to actually go there and see where we're hanging out. I want to send folks to one place to that way you can get the information there.
Heck yeah, man. Like if you're in the area and you're interested in hanging out with us and, fellow 12s and other little flockers, please come on down, man. It'd be a great time. Can't wait to see y'all.
Elliott Bay Brewing. And the only thing I do ask, though, is just to give us a heads up, because I put in a reservation for the party size that I think is going to be there. And if a lot of people end up coming, then that's probably going to cause issues. So, yeah, if you give us a heads up either through getintheflock.com or shoot an email at gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com. That way we can have at least enough of an expectation to give the pub their heads up.
I was going to say, what with the great folks at Elliott Bay Brewing Company, are they going to want to not take more money from more people? I think they will.
I'm concerned because there's a Huskies game going on Saturday evening that it could be busy. And I don't want to put any extra pressure on any of the wonderful staff there if we have more people show up than I expect.
I mean, it's just slinging beer. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't even tell us. It's not going to be a problem. Adam says it's fine. He'll handle the bar stuff.
Yeah, let's just freaking wing it, man. That's how we do the show. That's how I live life. Like the idea that we were starting to make plans there started making me feel all squirmy. So yeah, that's why I was just saying, yeah, screw it. Just show up. Who cares?
I'm disappointed we aren't going to have our Pizza Professional meetup spot after the game on Sunday.
Yeah, man. I've talked to you a couple times about this over the last couple of weeks, and I can feel the lament in your heart. Like
I am lamented.
It was such a great little spot, and it worked out so nicely for us over the years. And they retired, correct? Like we just moved on in life.
I think so. Yeah.
Congratulations to them, man. And appreciate that for all the years there. But hey, maybe Elliott Bay Brewing Company will be the next Pizza Professional, and maybe even better.
Well, and for the day before is fine, but we have to have a spot to go after the game. I'm thinking Katsu Burger, but I don't know what Clinton's plans are if he has to get back, because I think he flies out Sunday evening. So I think we're kind of in a holding pattern as to what we might do immediately after the game.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure it out, but we'll put it out there in the Ring of Honor. And if you're not in the flock or in the Ring of Honor, then Brandon will do something else. Maybe he'll do a Twitter thing or whatever, X thing or Y thing. Or
getintheflock.com. I'll post the information there. Discord, all those places.
Yeah, perfect. So
all right.
No excuse. If you're there, you want to hang out, let's do it. Come on.
What excuse can we give to the Rams for not being able to take down the 49ers? How do they not keep that momentum going? We allowed them to gain momentum week one. They kind of started to carry it into the game against the Niners, and then they got beat down ultimately by the 49ers.
They didn't get beat down. That was a close game.
They got beat down by Frisco.
I didn't see it that way, man. I didn't see it that way. And the reason why I'm going to give them any credit at all is because it made me feel better about our position in life. The fact that they gave the 49ers hell for a good portion of that game, especially that defense. I mean, Stafford, the Rams were up and down the field. Puka had a zillion catches again, and they scored points. So that made me feel better about our defense, knowing that the oh-so-great San Francisco 49ers defense also struggled with the Rams. And it's just a matter of time before they have another injury or two and their season is over, that they're just so thin. So I don't really worry about them long term, but just thanks to them for making me feel better about me in the Seahawks. So
you felt better that the Rams were able to hang in there for 3 quarters.
Yeah, 3.5 quarters.
I felt like I set that up pretty well. They got up by 10 in the 4th quarter, and then I felt like it was over. Then it turned to beat down territory for me.
Sure. But it was competitive for the vast majority of that game.
Arizona Cardinals would like you to call them competitive.
Well, they'd like me to call them a lot of things, like a football team, but I'm not about to do it.
I can't believe they blew up. Well, maybe I can believe that they blew that big of a lead to the New York Giants.
To Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones came out and ripped them a new one in the second half. I think he had 250 odd yards in the second half and a rushing touchdown and then maybe 2 passing or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Biggest comeback in Giants history. Man, that's embarrassing. To quote the hockey coach from Letterkenny, that is catfish embarrassing.
They were up 28-7. The Cardinals were, with about 9:34 to go in the third quarter. And they lost 31-28 in regulation.
It'd be one thing if it was like Mahomes or Burrow or, name the quarterback, right? One of the top quarter. But to have Daniel freaking Jones do that to you, I could call you competitive if that's what you want to be called, Arizona. But when you do that, I don't think I can.
Well, they're going to be a team to watch. See if they are actually able to pull through. I'm surprised that they've been as competitive as they have been in the first 2 games. That's one thing that I did not expect through 2 weeks of the season.
I'm surprised that you've given them this much airtime so far. Like, who gives a catfish? They stink. They're going to be at the bottom of the division. That's fine. Maybe at the bottom of the conference. Enjoy your, familiar place, Arizona. Congratulations. You've lost.
The Arizona Cardinals, the antithesis of our members of the flock at getintheflock.com. We've talked about it to this point, but we haven't quite mentioned the names of our executive producers. DCH, who we will see at the game. Becca Christensen, who will be at the game with us. Brian Shaw, who I don't know if he'll be there.
Oh, he's going to be there.
And JC Schilling, who's in Germany. Brian better be there. Oh, I got to text. Okay. As soon as we're done here, I'm texting Brian to find out what the heck he's doing and when he is meeting us up at the game on Sunday.
Exactly. And if whatever excuse that he gives, like, we'll have to find a way to blow it up. Like, if he's at a wedding, I'm going to go and object. I don't care what it takes. Like, this is what we're going to have to do.
Gonna have to do something.
And I guess the Germany thing is get a plane ticket, buy a boat, do something. Let's go.
Yeah. We got to get everybody there.
Come on, JC.
We got to try and see if we can swing by Guaranteed Barbecue on the way out. I don't know necessarily how that's going to work, if we're going to go through Libby and then weasel our way down through the mountains to get to Kellogg before we go through Spokane. But I guess we'll have to see it. I guess we'll have to see if Garen's catering a wedding again.
Exactly. I'll go object at that wedding too. Stupid weddings. I'm so sick of them things. Like, I haven't done the wedding photography for 10 years way back in the day. Like, they ruin everybody's weekends. Bah humbug. It's worse than Christmas.
Got to get that 12% Little Flocker discount by mentioning the Seahawks podcast.
Heck yeah, man. Hey, I know a little road that cuts down.
There is one. I looked at it on Google Maps. It looks like a nice road.
It's pretty.
I've never taken it.
To go by Bull Lake.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we're doing then.
We got to be to Seattle by about 5:30 though. So I can pick up the DCH at the airport.
Oh, and we have to go to the pub at 8.
Isn't that at 8? Yeah. I figured if we were there by like 5:30, we'd make the pub.
Probably no lunch then. When you throw that timetable piece into it. Sorry, Garen. You can cater the wedding all day on Saturday.
Garen's open on Monday, yeah?
I think so. We come back through. We get lunch there. Sans Clinton, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't need him anyways. We'll have spent 3 days together. I'm sure he'll be totally tired of me and ready to go home. And he'll be fine.
We needed Stephen Kirkpatrick this week, though. He came in at $37.31 via Zelle. Thanks for the donation, Stephen.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining the flock. Appreciate all you guys that do. Again, we do the value for value thing. If this provides some value to your life, but if me or Brandon have made you laugh at least once, that's worth $1, maybe $1 a month. That's all it takes. It helps us out. If you can do that, we'd appreciate it a ton. And this is the best audience in all of podcasting. I've decided that, I don't know, 7-8 years ago.
Well, it was easy to see the impact that they've had when I just happened to look at our podcast numbers here this past week, and we had passed 3 million podcast downloads since we started doing this. That's them. That's our audience.
That's wild. That's wild. And think that 3 million times people have chose to listen to this mouth. Like, that's amazing. Like, can't thank you guys enough. You may reevaluate a lot of choices in life.
500,000 on the YouTube side already, which we haven't been pushing that thing all that long.
No, just this last year is when we just kind of sort of started going with it. And real excited about where we're going on the video side of things. So yeah, tune in there. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, like, all that stuff. Hook a brother up.
Value for value. You can support the show monetarily. You can support us by telling your friends. You can support us by sending an email or, suggesting segments for the show. Any way that you want to help support us as we continue doing this crazy podcasting gig, we'll take whatever that you feel is valuable enough back to us.
Heck yeah.
Kimchi comes in, says, "Hey, what's up, Brandon and Adam? I'm sorry, guys. I didn't realize that my Patreon subscription was canceled for the last 4 months for whatever reason, but I am back in it. Love your guys' podcast. I am an auto detailer from Port Angeles, Washington, and I listen to your podcast just about every time when I'm working with my AirPods on. Keep up the great work and go Hawks."
Hey, go Hawks, man. Appreciate it, Kimchi. Who knows what happened that 4 months, but appreciate you getting after it and being on it. And don't forget the door jams, okay?
And next time, let us know which auto detailer it is, because people are going to say, "Hey, I live in Port Angeles and I need my car detailed." And then I can say, "Oh, well, find Kimchi."
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you?
But maybe that's all the detail they need. Maybe Port Angeles is that close-knit of a community that I just have to say, find Kimchi, and it works.
I don't know. I bet you there's at least 10 Kimchis in Port Angeles. That just feels right to me.
You think 10?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, why not?
All right.
Yeah.
What do you say we check out some Pick'em League standings?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Are we going to do my after-the-fact picks, and then should we do real picks?
Why don't we just skip the after-the-fact picks and just do real picks?
Okay, so that'll just be my week that I dirt?
Maybe. I don't think I entered him in yet either.
Oh, and I remembered my team name finally. It's Disley Adams.
That's what I thought. Well, people who actually did put in their picks this last week, let's call out the people who got 14 games correct, starting with Paul Baglio, DK Metcalf, Cameron Cole. Cameron always, well, he had a rough week, but Cameron generally does well in the Pick'em League. B-Wags to Riches, the real reality, For Hawk's Sake, and with the top spot, 15 picks correct. Show me your Largent TDs.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, you said Cameron, he's always does well in the Pick'em League, but he's not doing well at Pick'em League names. So come on, Cameron.
Come on, Cameron.
Do better. 14 picks isn't enough.
The problem is that if you solely use your mobile device, you can't get to where the spot is to the options section to be able to change your name. You got to go in via desktop. Cameron, although Cameron, you're old enough that you should still have a desktop computer. I mean, if you're a member of the younger generation, I understand, but
yeah,
Cameron's
for sure.
About our age.
That was starting to sound like a bunch of excuses to me, though, man. I don't know. Accountability.
Kids, go to the library, ask your parents to use their desktop computer, and change your dang Pick'em League name.
Yeah, and those keyboards that you use all the fingers on those, not just your thumbs.
Those kids, they know how to go quick with just their index fingers on the keyboard.
Really? Have you witnessed such things?
Yeah, like with my kids.
That's how they type?
Well, until they take typing class.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were talking about your eldest or something, and I'm like, come on, man. Use all the digits.
I can't say that I have actually sat down and watched their typing form. Am I a bad parent? Maybe.
I mean, you say maybe, I say for sure. I mean, however you want to look at it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's look ahead to this week so Adam can get on the board with actual picks. All right. Thursday night football, New York Giants at the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, Niners all day.
I can make that pick for you. Atlanta at Detroit.
Ooh.
Atlanta 2-0. 2-0. Falcons.
Dude, have you watched Bijan? He's good.
He's really good.
Holy crap, dude. When I caught a case of the Bijans through the draft process, like I know why now. Oh my goodness, dude. He is electric every time he touches the ball.
So does that continue against the Lions? Or the Lions bounce back?
You know what? I don't know why I would pick the Falcons. What am I doing other than just being a Bijan fanboy? It's still Desmond Ridder, and they're going to have to put up points against a good Lions offense. That's not happening. Yeah, I changed it. Lions.
It would be a risk pick if you went Falcons.
Oh, that would be my... All right, I'll take that as my risk pick. Get it out of the way early.
All right.
Love it. Do you want me to change my mind again? I can do it.
I could just sense that you're on the fence. Buffalo at Washington.
Yeah. Oh, Buffalo. Washington's a bunch of pretenders.
Denver at Miami. That Broncos game was fun. Did you watch Brandon Perna last week?
If you didn't, you've done yourself a disservice. I actually got a text from Bronco Jared saying that after the Hail Mary that he may officially need to take a break from this team. That's where he's at in his fandom right now.
Miami Dolphins feels like a win for them at home.
Oh, God, yeah.
Houston at Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Indy at Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Chargers at Minnesota.
Ooh, battle of the anti-clutch.
Yeah.
Who can choke away a game worse?
Both teams 0-2. You can't pick a tie via CBSSports.com.
I'm going to go with Vikings because I think the Chargers are that bad at closing games. I think the Vikings are better at closing games than the Chargers.
Did you see that the Vikings picked up Cam Akers in a trade with the Rams?
Did I see that everything I've said about Cam Akers is 100% true and even the Rams know it? Yeah, I did see that trade.
New York Jets at home against the New England Patriots.
Jets.
All right. Actually, you're going against the grain, but that would not be a risk pick on that one.
Yeah, I think that Jets defense, they're going to give Mac Jones and that like anemic weaponry a problem.
New Orleans Saints at the Green Bay Packers.
I like the Saints D, but the Packers have played well overall, even with the loss to Atlanta. I'm going Packers, and they're in Green Bay.
They're in Green Bay.
Yeah, Packers.
Cleveland at home against the Titans.
Titans, because I'll never pick Cleveland for anything as long as that terrible human being is their quarterback.
All right. He's not going to have Nick Chubb either. Bummer for Nick.
Oh,
that was gruesome.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs, Chicago Bears in KC. I know the answer.
Yeah, okay.
Dallas going on the road against the Arizona Cardinals.
Are you serious? All right, fine. Cowboys. I want to start picking against them because this does feel like one of those early season mirages to it, that Dallas has now and then. So I don't know.
They might carry it up to the division title and then flame out in the playoffs like they usually do.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
This is the closest game in terms of percentages of fans picking one game versus the other. Pittsburgh Steelers on the road against the Vegas Raiders.
Oh, Raiders.
Philly at Tampa.
That Tampa D has been pretty good. But man, Swift and company there for the offense, they are running the holy shit out of the ball for Philly. Philly.
I kind of wanted you to ride with Baker there for a second. I thought you might do it.
I can't play patty cakes with Baker, man.
The battle of the Boomer Sooner quarterbacks here.
Yeah.
And finally, that game's on Monday night, but this game closing out the Monday night action. The Los Angeles Rams playing in prime time against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 0-2 to start the year.
We don't know about Joe Burrow, right? Still with the calf thing. Don't know if he's going to play, but I have a really hard time seeing the Bengals starting a season 0-3, and I'm going Cincy. And the Rams.
Yeah, you can't pick the Rams. Jeez.
I mean, I can. They're not playing the Seahawks, but I don't want to.
No, but it would just feel gross.
Ew.
Oh, we do have an email from our grand overlord of the Pick'em League, Evie. She writes in saying, "Dear underlings, 2 weeks into the Pick'em League, I have been watching. Well done to Andrew, Rashad, and Blind Squirrel, who are leading at this point. Dad is happy with where he is 3 picks back, although keeps mumbling about how he should know better than to ever pick the stupid donkeys. I don't understand, but it is clear he is not a fan of the donkeys, whoever they are. I have to report that 4 of you picked the Lions this week. We won, though, so check your Hawkra. You got what you deserve. But also, no, I'll be watching it. If you do, you know the punishment. Be warned. Thank you for letting me continue to be your overlord. Yours sincerely, Evie. Go Hawks, not the Lions.
Evie, our fair, benevolent overlord, appreciate you keeping tabs on everything, and I appreciate you for letting me sometimes pick late and not taking away my birthday. So thank you for that. Thank you.
You don't show up in the standings yet because I haven't actually put your picks in and saved them until this week for the first time. So
okay.
I may have to go back.
I'm glad I put that extra work on you for no reason. So you're welcome.
Well, you said last time we did the picks, you're like, well, you just go back in and do it later. But then I have to remember to go back in and do it later.
All right. Well, you will or you won't. And that's fine. I'm not too worried about it.
All right. Well, we've heard from Evie, and we've also heard from executive producer Brian Shaw. He's got an excuse. He's got some annual training that he has to do that they can't reschedule. Not going to be at the game this weekend.
I want to speak to a manager.
You got to go Karen for Brian and get this worked out.
Brian's awesome at what he does. What kind of training does he need to be even better than awesome?
What more training can Brian possibly need?
The only training he needs is to be trained to tell his boss, no, I'm going to my other job as executive producer of the Seahawks podcast, the Seahawks game, because I'm a big deal there.
Just pull that card, Brian. Just say, go into whoever you need to talk to and say, do you know who I am?
Right. And if they don't, you can have them call me and I'll say the same thing. They'll still say no, but I'll try to say it with enough authority that you're not going to be there, that they just let it happen. That works.
It should work. If in 10 years of doing this show, we can't get somebody who donates to this show out of something that they don't want to have to do, like if we can't do that for them, what are we even doing here?
I don't know. I'll pretend to be in the hospital. I don't give a shit. Catfish. I'll do whatever.
We got one email this week from Hugh, the father of our Pick'em League overlord. Hugh writes in saying, I presume all the people calling for Pete's head on a platter are now booking their Super Bowl tickets. Or is it only a bad result which dictates our season? How good was it to see us go back to 12 and 13 personnel? The sets that served us so well last year, and also protect our backup tackles that little bit more. Also, Geno looked commanding again. DK showed that the only time he should lose his catfish on the field is when he's poop carted away to do it, and Bobby was doing Bobby things. Plenty to be positive about, and also those niggly worries, which are as bad as we saw last week. No. Are we the best team in the league? No. But are we a good team who will win more than we lose and on our day can beat anyone? Yes. I am looking forward to seeing how far we can go. Go Hawks. From Hugh. Says, P.S. Adam, I was at a service station bathroom this week and thought of you. No, not like that. But the toilet roll dispenser was at head height. I'm 5'8" on a good day and even stood up. I had to reach up. You would have loved it. From Hugh.
Man, I don't understand what the confusion is for people. Like, if you're installing the toilet paper roll dispenser, sit down on the toilet, put your hand up to, the right or the left, whichever side you're going to put it on. I would say the right. Most people are right-handed wipers, I'm guessing. And, just put it at about shoulder height for an average human. Like, this isn't hard. Why does it have to be at ankle height? Or why do you have to try to, jump in sky to get up there to get a square to spare? It's ridiculous. But I appreciate you thinking of me, Hugh.
Having it up high is better than having to do the pickle claw move.
It feels better somehow. You're right. Because the upside down pickle claw, because it's not even a regular pickle claw. It's an upside down freaking pickle claw. Yeah. Come on, man. What is with that? Cintas, aren't they the company that makes most of that crap? Do better. Get your catfish together.
And maybe they have maybe it's a worldwide conglomerate that is doing this, because if this is not just a U.S. problem, but also an England problem. What's going on here?
We need our European listeners to confirm or deny if their toilet paper dispensers are at correct, comfortable height.
Well, Hugh's in England, so.
Oh, Hugh is in England.
We need eyes everywhere on this.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
All right. Yeah. I need more. I need more data points.
Just right? That's what I want to know. Which country has this right that we can hold up to the world and say, these guys know what they're doing?
Japan, because they have bidets instead.
Yeah. Don't they have the holes in the floor though?
Oh, baby, I have no idea.
You don't even know.
No, I don't know. I just make crap up all the time and I say it with authority and then people believe me. It's great.
Hey, that's like just the part of the show that we're getting to as we get on to do better and better at life.
All right, man. Well, I'll say this with authority, but I don't think I need to because I think everybody else has agreed. My do better this week is for NFL officials. I've seen some of the worst calls this week, or the most head scratching calls that I can recall in a long time. The intentional grounding by Geno in the game, or the non-intentional grounding by Geno throughout the game. I was beside myself. I mean, you thought Pete was hot. I mean, there was a full on hat throw. Like, I was yelling at the sky. It didn't know what it did wrong, but it caught the wrath anyways. It's unbelievable. That was just such a terrible call. And then I watched the end of the Broncos Commanders game, and Russ hits the Hail Mary somehow. Then they go for two, and Sutton gets tackled from behind before the ball even gets to him on the 2-point conversion. It's a PI all day. Yeah. Kind of like what the Rams got away with against the Saints a few years ago in the playoffs, and no call. And then I'm watching Monday Night Football, and not that I wanted this to be a completion because screw the Browns for aforesaid reasons, but Joey Porter Jr. gets the walk-off PBU by completely just grabbing the shoulder pads of the receiver as the ball's coming there. No call. I saw so many terrible calls and just head-scratching calls throughout this week. I don't know what's going on with the refs. Maybe they're rusty. Maybe they need to play more in the preseason. Whatever it is, do better.
Yeah, what game was it where the offensive lineman pulled the defender down on top of him and the crown of the helmet hit the quarterback in the thigh, and they called it a hitting the quarterback below the knee penalty? And the coach postgame was saying, I don't know how to coach this because there's nothing in the rule book that says that this was wrong or a penalty.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? Like okay, don't hit him below the knee. Unless you hit him above the knee, then don't do that either. So
don't hit the quarterback in a way that would suggest that the official would want to take the flag out and call a penalty. That feels like how we do penalties now, especially with roughing calls.
Yeah, if you're going to hit the quarterback and get a penalty, then do it like Darrell Taylor and do it with gusto.
Just go all in. And then whether you actually believe that he had the ball or not, play it off as if you're like, well, I thought he had the ball.
Did you hear KJ talk about that?
No. What did he say?
About that play? I listened to a little bit of his podcast yesterday, and he was beside himself. He's like, that's a terrible play by Darrell Taylor. Like, I'm telling you, as an ex-player, there is no way by step 3, you're looking at that guy just kind of chilling out and hanging there and going, oh, yeah, he probably still has the ball. He's like, that's terrible. That's terrible awareness. You got to do better than that. That's unacceptable. Don't take up for him. And G. Scott was trying to take up for him, be like, man, come on, I could see it. And he's like, no, everybody in the world knew at that point that he didn't have the ball. Well, that's not true because I still was kind of fixated on him, and so was the cameraman. But yeah, KJ not having it.
I like that as a coaching point from KJ because that's a fellow player. That's a guy who's been there and a guy who has had excellent awareness to be able to tell Darrell that he shouldn't get any. Well, from us, it's okay. But yeah, I like it coming from KJ.
KJ knows better than me. So whatever he says goes. That's what I know. So
my do better this week is for the voting public on the FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Week. Well, for one, maybe even just the selection process of who made the cut for FedEx Air Players of the Week, because I looked at the survey and I saw the 3 players who were selected. You had Geno Smith, 328 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, led his team back to victory. Like, that feels like a good nomination for the FedEx Air Player of the Week. Next person on the list, CJ Stroud. Okay. He had 384 passing yards, which for the rookie, that's good. 2 passing touchdown, also good. But Houston got the loss. Kirk Cousins, 364 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Also a team that lost. And then to go in and find out that both Kirk Cousins in his loss and CJ Stroud in his loss got more votes than Geno Smith got in the win for the voting public of the FedEx Air Player of the Week. Do better.
Man, maybe they got confused and thought yards matter. Maybe that was what the problem is.
Well, they did a really good job of voting for the player that threw for the most yards.
Was that Stroud?
No, well, also touchdowns. So the Stroud had the most yards. Cousins had the most touchdowns. Cousins actually had the majority of the vote.
In some ways, man, the Stroud performance might be the most impressive considering the roster around him. He made some throws, man. He threw some dots.
Yeah,
it was impressive. But yeah, clearly there was one intended winner of that got missed, and his name is Geno Smith.
Very disappointing. So I don't know how the results of this actually worked out. Like, I don't know if there's an executive committee that just takes the social media votes and then fixes it when the voting public can't get it right. But hopefully that's the case, and Geno gets a rightful victory this week.
If he doesn't, I know who my do better is next week.
Who you got for better at life?
All right, man. My better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for Nick Chubb. You brought it up earlier, and I didn't expound on it because this was my plan all along. That was a terrible, terrible injury that he suffered, man. And just my heart goes out to him. Just a class act of a dude, a hell of a teammate, and one of the best running backs in the league. The league is definitely worse off without him, and wishing him a speedy recovery. And I hope everything goes well and he can be back in the field and performs better than ever. But better life than Skip Bayless, Nick Chubb.
One of those injuries that you really hope that he's able to make it back, especially if that's what he wants to do, is come back and play in the NFL. But one of those ones where you go, wow, that is going to be one tough recovery.
Who knows if he wants to come back to football? I'd imagine that he would, but yeah, let's all have the best intentions and wishes for that guy. Give him the good juju, and hopefully he heals quickly.
My better at life this week is for Kylen Granson, tight end for the Indianapolis Colts. What did he do this past week? Well, Kylen, in his 3rd year in the league, he caught his first touchdown pass. And that might not be better at life worthy on its own, but he did something that I have never seen from an NFL player. What he did after catching his first touchdown pass, he took the football that he caught for the touchdown and he did a photo shoot as if the ball were his newborn baby. And so for going out and getting the professional photography photos of him with the football wrapped in a towel and pointing to it and doing like the little coochie coo thing, holding it up in the air like it's the Lion King's baby, laughing and holding the football. He's even got one with him looking lovingly at his wife while holding the football wrapped in the towel. Kylen Granson for finding a unique way to celebrate your first career NFL touchdown. You are better at life than Skip Bayless.
I'll have to go look that one up, man. That one sounds freaking hilarious. That's great, man.
It's funny looking at some of the comments because it is like, it's supposed to be cringeworthy. The type of photos, like that's the point of it.
Oh yeah.
And people are like, oh, cringe. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the point of it. It's supposed to be goofy. Like he's having fun with it.
Yeah, he is. He's having fun with it. And as somebody who ran a professional portrait studio for a number of years, okay, all those pictures end up being cringe because there's only so many things you can do with this tiny little blob of a human that doesn't want to look at you, doesn't want to smile. He can't say anything. Like, I don't even know why I'm taking pictures of their tiny feet and stuff. Like, get out of here. They're always kind of cheesy, man. There's not a lot you can do. So I can see why people thought that, but I have a feeling that I'm going to enjoy the whole process immensely of watching that.
I sent the link to you, and I know you're going to enjoy it. And I can't wait until next week when you give me your feedback about how much you did enjoy these pictures.
Heck yeah, man. Maybe I'll give you my feedback, when we're at the brewery on Saturday, or maybe when we're at the game on Sunday, or maybe we're meeting up after Sunday. I don't know, man. But
it could be any one of those times.
Could be any one of those times. Hope you all can make it. If you're in the area, can't wait to see you guys. Can't wait to see them beat up on the stupid Panthers. Because time, as we spank the kitty like we've done in the past. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.